Welcome to Pub Talk, the unofficial official craft beer podcast of Oklahoma, where we're all about the three B's, beer buddies, and bullshit. I'm Michael, and with me as always is a man who doesn't think twice about hitting the road to see if your beer's nice, Jeremy.
There you go.
On today's show, we hit the road again, this time to talk with folks from Lazy Circles Brewing in Norman, Oklahoma. If you like what you hear today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and show us some love on social media at Pub Talk Podcast. All right, let's get into it. So first off, thank you guys for having us down today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Typically start off the episodes with just brief introductions and let us know what you guys do here.
I'm Stephen Swanson, one of the owners, and I am in charge of the tap room and sales, and then a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Basey. I'm the head brewer. But just like Swanson said, we all do a little bit of everything around here, the three partners.
Right on. So I always like to start just kind of with the story of what got you guys to the point of opening your own tap room, the name, that kind of thing.
Sure. Well, there was a lot of things going on that just kind of fell into place. We were brewing in my garage for a few years and just kept scaling up, getting bigger and bigger. All our friends they were throwing a party. They'd have us make kegs of beer for them for their parties, and I was retiring from the Navy and gonna be looking for something to do afterwards. The laws were changing that were making having a tap room and a small brewery actually a possibility, and the time was just right for us to get in on the early wave of that.
It would kind of reach a point, with like any hobby where you're like, the urge to open a brewery and do this like for a living it was like this. We couldn't stop thinking about it and dreaming about it. And it kind of took on a snowball effect, especially for me, just dreaming. And anyone that's lived in Oklahoma for, over 10 years is obviously, when you get into craft beer, you're just like, why can't I have this here?
Yeah.
And so that like drive to help bring some of that culture to an area that virtually didn't really exist a whole lot was just exciting, 405 was around for sure. And, but, we thought, man, we could really use another brewery here. And so it was just possibly ill-advised in some ways, but, that's, I guess, kind of the genius of what makes small business special. Sometimes you do stuff out of pure passion and just excitement rather than, hey, let's actually look at make sure every number's perfect. It was more like, hey, if we build it, they will come.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. As far as the name, good question. So my sister, his wife, came up with that name. And it kind of fit really perfect. The first inspiration I think that got her thinking about it was the hawk was kind of symbolic to us a little bit. After our father passed away, and it just was kind of perfect because it tied that in, and it was very Oklahoma because it comes from the state song, but at the same time it's not in your face Oklahoma.
Yeah, sure.
You kind of have to think about it, or if you're not an Okie and you're not familiar with the song, it's just another name to you, which is cool. We felt it was pretty perfect.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most difficult things is finding a name. You probably guys had trouble just finding a name for your show,
Yeah.
And Nothing's Left Brewing, I love their name just because they said, screw it. There's literally nothing left. Let's just call it that. It's so hard to kind of find a name that isn't, you feel like, well, that could be misconstrued as being copied from somebody else or stolen from somebody else. And you kind of go through everybody else's name that, like aspects of their name that you really like, like Coop Ale Works. We really like that. They used Ale Works instead of Brewing or Brewery. And, you just kind of go through everything and you come up with a lot of names that are not great. And, but when we found that one, it was like immediately like,
we all knew,
it tied in a lot of little aspects together, and had a nice ring to it. The logo was like already, it just like, when you say the name, the picture of the logo already pops in your head. You don't have to really like, think about it for a long time. So it was super natural. So,
Awesome. How has the craft beer scene in Norman changed over, I guess just had your 2-year anniversary, right?
Correct.
Ago? How's the craft beer scene changed around here?
Yeah, it's, it has changed a lot because you're getting, we're starting to see a lot of students, like graduate students, that are getting into beer as a hobby, kind of like the rest of us. People's palates have changed a lot. But what we're also seeing too is just we're still teaching people every day, literally, they might not even like beer, but they find themselves in this environment, and so they're trying to give it a shot. So we're still teaching those beginner craft beer drinkers all the time.
Kind of changing the culture in a lot of ways. Of course, we're just catching up to where most of the other country is already at, but we're definitely making an impact here with all the other breweries too. It's changing all around, and people are coming around to enjoying, more than just the yellow fizz beer, things like that.
Mm-hmm. What's really neat too is that, like in a broader spectrum, just that what makes craft beer right now so wonderful is that you have more than one choice, and you kind of get to pick your brewery that fits your palate a little bit, and that can be like your favorite brewery. And when you have 1 or 2 breweries, you don't really get enough options. Now we're up to 4 breweries, and we should be up to 5 here in a few months. That is a really good selection, and you can find one that's close to your house, and that maybe fits your style better, which is really, I think, what craft brewing is about right now, is that the market's being made up of just bunches of small places like us. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's like, on like a consumer point of view, that's such a wonderful thing to have.
Yeah. So before we get too far in here, we've got a lot of beer in front of us here. Can you guys kind of tell us about what you've got on tap right now and what people can expect when they come in the tap room?
Yeah, we kind of brewed too many beers right now. This is actually one more option than we like to have. We have 12 taps. Try to keep it at 12, but we have 13 on right now. So
if you're wondering how that's possible, we have an extra tap normally reserved for the Randall. Yeah. So we actually have 13 taps, not 12. We're not running 13 beers on 12 taps.
Yeah, so we don't get to do our Randall right now, so we don't get to do like our special. But 13 beers is pretty fun still. So
it's winter, so we got 2 big stouts. Of course, that's obligatory this time of year.
Yeah, the Coco Caliente, I think.
That's what I'm drinking, I believe.
Yeah, so cinnamon chocolate, guajillo, chipotle peppers. That's our kind of our, Christmas winter beer. This is our 3rd time to release it, and we always release it in December.
It's usually pretty anticipated. People are asking, definitely excited when it comes out every year.
Yeah,
it's very good, for the record.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So we get really excited about it too, and that's one thing we're trying to learn is just keeping. Sometimes when you brew a special beer, you want to brew it right again because it was so good, but it kind of loses some of the seasonality if you just right. But that one's so fun because it comes out once a year and it just fits the season so well. We actually have some aging in the barrel, not to get off subject, but
nice.
Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of exciting we did this year is we took a little bit of this year's batch and reserved it and put it in the whiskey barrels.
Awesome.
Nice. So that should come out. But so just real quick, I guess I'll run through all these. You got the Coco Caliente that you're drinking, and then
that's the Mont chocolate stuff.
We got Trail Ale, which is a pale ale brewed with Citra hops. This right here is a Boss Lady. It's a Belgian double with tart cherry. That was our second anniversary ale. So also another seasonal. This is Dirty Bird Red. It's a red ale with a nice like hoppy presence.
Balanced malty and hoppiness. It's one of our original recipes.
Yeah, that's probably what is that? Your favorite beer? Your second favorite beer?
It depends on what time of the year it is,
right?
but yeah, it's definitely my top couple. When I created that recipe, it was really something that I wanted to have on tap in my house most of the time, and I didn't think it would be as well received as it is. I mean, it's not too many people's favorite or go-to, but it's still pretty well, especially the warmer months.
It's
a good fall beer.
Oh, a lot of these beers,
months.
like the Trail Ale and the Dirty Bird Red, this Graduate, which is a Belgian white, Maine and Porter, which is a porter. A lot of these are really our first recipes we ever developed in the garage, and we're just ones that we like to drink. And I guess stylistically, kind of represents what you're into as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of those are staple beers. They're not necessarily our best sellers, but they're so consistent year round. It's just, they just kind of go. So, and they're just, and for us, we just like making beer that you can sit down and have 2 or 3 of and, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Also feeling important for us, we like to keep a variety that keeps, even if it's not a super popular beer, it's maybe somebody's favorite or go-to. And so they come in, there's always something that we want to keep, where there's always something that somebody can enjoy, no matter what they're into.
Yeah. We have a big focus on keeping those core beers, but then one thing we really wanted to focus on this year, which we hadn't done a super great job of, is just keeping the rotation of the seasonal beers going and steady. So we're really going to focus on that, try to keep at least 2 to 3 beers on constant rotation throughout the year to fit the seasons and that sort of thing. So like, sorry, I'm trying to remember. We have 3 IPAs, 100K IPA. Where's the station one right there? 400 block over there. Those are our IPAs sell really well. We're big IPA drinkers as well, so we'll keep those on all the time. That's Dos Estebans, which is a
Nice.
Mexican lager, or cerveza, if you will, brewed with lemon peel. And that one, that's just, it quickly became probably our best seller just immediately. And even like winter months, like Friday night when all that cold air moved in, it went from 60 degrees to 20 degrees. Everyone was either ordering Coca Caliente or Dos Estebans.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a lager, but it's got the heavy malt and corn base, so it's not like super light or anything. So I can see why people enjoy this time of year too.
Absolutely. I don't know, sometimes you just want a simple beer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I appreciate that from time to time.
Look to the IPAs, those 3 that we have, the 100K is what we consider our West Coast style, and we're dank, heavily hopped.
Yeah.
This Station 1 is our take on a New England style, definitely more juicy and fruit forward. And the 400 block is double IPA. That doesn't really seem too much like a double, in my opinion.
Well, it's a it's a malty double.
Well,
so
it's a restrained double. That's just in my opinion, it's just the right amount of everything, and it's really well balanced. It's probably
our best beer.
Probably our best beer. Yeah, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
That was this one, right?
Yeah. It's an interesting double because people that aren't huge IPA drinkers really get into it, and then people that are huge IPA drinkers get into it. It kind of.
There's people that don't even drink IPAs, and they'll taste that, and they'll. I could drink this.
And it might not be like, if you're a hop head, it might not be your favorite IPA. but you're going to like it still. A lot.
Yeah. You'll still.
It's an easy one to appreciate.
Awesome. Do you have favorite styles? I mean, you said you were IPA guys and stuff like that. Favorite styles you like to drink and or brew?
I definitely kind of tend toward IPAs personally. I like them all, and I definitely drink seasonally, but I mean, probably 75% of the beer I drink is going to be an IPA or a pale ale, something like that, personally. And then just depending on the year, sometimes I want bigger beers, or sometimes I want something a little smaller. But if you know, my fridge at home usually has just pretty much IPA in it. So
Okay.
Yeah, my two go-tos are usually the trail ale. I think it's got that. I mean, it's a pale, so it's not an IPA, but there's definitely a hop presence there, that the flavor and the refreshing part of it, and it's only 5%.
yeah.
I like small beers personally.
Well, that one's like, we named it trail ale because we like to ride bikes, mountain bikes, and it's kind of designed. It wasn't designed this way, but when you get done riding a bike, first thing you want to do is drink a beer.
Yeah.
And that's the beer you want to drink, because it's going to like...
We had that in mind, yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted a beer that we wanted to, after we're done riding the trails or hiking or playing disc golf or whatever, you just wanted a cool, refreshing beer that you're not going to get hit you too hard after you'd been sweating and stuff like that. And that's where the trail came from, for sure.
Nice. So we can see you guys, your system back here. What size system are you brewing on now?
We have a 7-barrel, 2-vessel system. Right now I do about 5-barrel batches in it, though, 5 to 6 barrel batches. We have 2 5-barrel fermenters, a 7-barrel, and a 10 for double batches.
Okay.
I see the names on there. I like the names. How did you guys come up with those?
Well, I picked the first two because I'm a huge Blues Brothers fan, and it just made sense because they were twins, or brothers. So that's how we got Jake and Elwood. And then when we got the third one, it was Swanson's turn to name.
Yeah, I was like, my turn, I get to name one. And Les Claypool's my favorite musician. Probably have what I describe as an unhealthy obsession with Primus. So, I was like, I have to. There was never even a thought what I would name it. So, in fact, I think you were like, yeah, you can name it Les Claypool.
Yeah, I was alright with it. It was fun. And it's cool.
My wife, she got to name the third one, or the fourth one. She got the third naming option, right? But,
And it was kind of appropriate.
Yeah.
We all, we all like agreed on it, but
it was right around Aretha's passing, and that one's the biggest.
Yep, she's the queen in it for sure.
But it's an homage,
Yeah.
for sure.
So you guys have been open a couple of years now. We always like to ask if you remember like the holy shit moment where you went, oh my gosh, this is working, this is going well, that kind of thing.
That might have been grand opening.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Our grand opening was a eye-opener for sure. We didn't know what to expect, and it was just about all we can handle.
And I've been a bartender and in restaurants for a long time. I've worked at busy restaurants and St. Patrick's Day events, and we had a line around the corner all night, and I just remember telling people, just apologizing. I'm sorry.
We couldn't pour beer fast enough. All three of us were back there. Yeah. And it was only like 4 hours or something. It wasn't even like a full...
Well, we were open 5 to 9, right? Because back then you had to close at 9.
Yeah.
And I remember 9 o'clock coming around and being like...
Oh, thank gosh.
But it was also like, how do we make it stop? Because people
they were
still in line, And
we didn't tell people like, it's illegal, we can't sell anymore.
I think like 30 minutes ago, we're like, sorry, we have to close at 9. Like trying to explain that we weren't treated as a bar. And at that point, people were just they'd order a 32-ounce growler of every beer. At the time, we had 5 beers. And so it was just like, great, I gotta fill 5 growlers. But I mean, wonderful problem. But that was probably. I don't know if after that I thought, well, this is gonna work, but definitely that was a no shit.
I remember, there's a few times in that first year, or at least especially like by the time our first anniversary party, it was kind of like we felt like we were a thing, and we had like all these customers that we had even relationships with, and constantly seeing new people, and support was always there. That I felt like, wow, this is legit,
Yeah, that's a good point, because grand openings, you're going to get a lot of love, especially if there's only 2 breweries in town. The community was super supportive, and they always have been. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that first year was definitely that first anniversary party was definitely because you plan big events, you just don't know who's going to show up and how things are going to go. And that anniversary ale was Holiday.
It didn't have a name at the time, but
but that thing, it was a Brut Blonde ale in November, so kind of out of season. But we sold a whole keg of that, and it's really hard to go through an entire half-barrel keg in one night. I mean, that beer,
especially when you get back then, we had 8-10 beers probably.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good amount for sure, and definitely a great selection. So, but that's like 120-ish beers. So go through that entire keg in one go, and then tap into another one. Yeah, it was. I don't know if we've ever, if quite yet we've decided if we've made it, but maybe another year.
We knew we were going to be good for 1 more year.
Yeah,
there you go.
We also always like to ask if you remember your first craft beer or your epiphany beer that made you, give up on the big beers.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if there was like a time for me where it was just like a line that was like, all right, it was more of a transition where I was like dipping my toes into it. But I will say, there's 2 breweries that stand out to me that were kind of like the ones that helped me bridge the gap. I have brothers in Colorado, and at the time, my oldest brother was living in Fort Collins, and obviously New Belgium was the big thing, and there wasn't a lot of options. I think back then Fort Collins had 3 or 4 breweries total, and so obviously the Fat Tire. That's the one that, hey,
definitely,
this is a good beer. And so I was just like told, hey, this is a good beer, drink this. But locally, I will say the one brewery that really helped bridge the gap and turn me on to IPAs was the brew house, believe it or not. Coach's Brew House. Back then it was Coach's.
Yeah, okay.
And they had like 8 beers on tap. And they were all 3-2 beer. But they used to have a happy hour special from 3 to 6, and it was $1 for a pint. And so being, in my early 20s, $1 a pint, yeah. You can go get, from 3 to 6, we'd go get 3 or 4 beers, and they were, you'd have a good time. And I had a buddy that was like, get the IPA, it's their strongest. They won't say it, but it's the strongest one, just so you know. So if you got the IPA, you got the best value, right? And so I remember the first time I drank that, I was like, I was like, I don't think I really like this a lot, but don't drink it, And over time, it just became my favorite absolute beer was their IPA. And after that, it just, everywhere I would go, I'd start ordering IPAs, or Pelos, to see other ones. So that was probably what did it for me.
Right on.
Yeah, mine was similar. Well, minus the Coaches. I wasn't living here. There was like a little bit of evolution. I could afford a little bit more than they grabbed some. I'd buy Sam Adams, for example, and it's still, base lager, but it had flavor. It was more interesting. more substantial, and kind of grew from there. Of course, Fat Tire was important there. Then I moved to Washington State, and that's where I kind of really started. In the little town I lived in, Oak Harbor, and on Whidbey Island, there was a husband and wife that had this tiny little shop that was just a beer store. There was no refrigeration, no nothing. And, you know, most of what they sold were 22-ounce bottles, and it was the more craft beer stuff that I wasn't really exposed to. But I would just go in there, buy 2 or 3 different types of beers for the weekend and go home and enjoy them, you know, just a couple of glasses of each. And I didn't like everything, obviously. But you start to get that shift or that taste or the desire for more flavor. For me, the hops came definitely later. I was still kind of like, I don't mind a little bit of hops, but a big IPA, especially back then, that was like the IPA wars when everybody was trying to out-hop the other person. And I wasn't super into that back then, but of course, I've shifted obviously over the time.
I kind of miss the hop wars a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that it's not anymore that every IPA has to be the hoppiest thing, but I don't mind when someone makes an IPA that's so hoppy it's ridiculous. Like, I'll give it a shot.
I remember one time I was on vacation. Not vacation, I was actually going to school, my instructor school in Virginia, and I went to a bar that somebody said, oh, they have good craft beer there. So I was like, cool. And I go there, and literally everything other than the basic beers, anything that was slightly craft, every single one was an IPA. And we're talking about 8. So they had 8 different types of beers on tap that were not, Bud Light or whatever.
Yeah.
And every single one was IPA. And that's when I was like, okay, this is too much. Like, there are other things.
That is like one thing that does annoy me. If I go someplace and it's just this, they have taps, or maybe it's like a liquor store, but they don't really represent anything but one style.
Yeah.
And even if it's my favorite style, I'm like, you can't just sell IPAs. You've got to sell something else.
Yeah.
For the red, for us, we were like, how often you go to the liquor store and you see a red ale on the shelf? It's the classic styles are almost forgotten sometimes, or overlooked because they're old.
Right. So another thing we always like to ask people about when we first come on the show is festivals, right? And all the various beer festivals that happen across the state. Always curious if you have any favorite festivals, favorite memories from festivals, and I believe you guys have even hosted festivals out here in this courtyard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the festival that's been out here has been the Hair of the Dog, and it's thrown by Stash, our neighbor. And I'm not sure if they're going to continue it because it takes a lot of work, but that's always been definitely a favorite of ours.
Me too.
We just
The atmosphere was just right.
Yeah, we're a very Norman style group of people, and so that one's definitely a Norman beer fest, and it's nice when you just have to take your beer to your parking lot.
You don't have to pack your truck up for every single little part or tool that you think you might need, because it's all just right here. We've been to a lot of different festivals, even before we were open. Probably seemed like more back then. We gave away a lot of beer before we were even able to sell it.
Yeah, that's what you do, right? You just start giving away beer. Hey, we're going to open up, and
the best part of that, I feel like, was like meeting a lot of people, especially other people who were prospective breweries at the time. Like Ross from Your Scotsman and a bunch of those other guys, and we kind of had relationships from them, from those things, and it kind of built up, and now we're all where we are now, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like going to college with somebody for 6 months. You're like, we all graduated at the same time, It's like us and Cabin Boys and Angry Scotsman, and, a lot of those. So it's neat to have those you see each other and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, we made it. That's the house guys. All of us, we're kind of like incubating at the same time. It's great.
I will say I do like the Oklahoma Craft Beer Festival, and that one's fun. I like the new venue better, personally, in the fairgrounds. Just seemed more natural there.
Yeah, the fairgrounds.
And it's nice to only work one day instead of 2 days. Have you guys ever volunteered at like a beer fest for like pouring or anything like that?
Sort of.
Yeah.
We were at that Barktoberfest in Stillwater.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really, really fun one.
It was.
It's weird because Norman's. I guess it's not weird because both college towns, but Norman and Stillwater have a very similar like feel to the towns.
Yeah.
Stillwater's just a little smaller, but just kind of like good. Norman's just a big small town. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like when you're pouring beer, especially if you're really busy, after about 2 hours, you're like, okay, you're just a little brain dead now. You're like ready for it to be over, and so like,
Well, the people who are pouring beer is usually pretty brain dead by then.
Yeah.
yeah, when you're-
I'm assuming you get asked the same questions over and over.
right, yeah. So you kind of get stuck on repeat with describing the beers, and at first you can be real excited about it, and then after about 2 or 3 hours, you start to be like, I think I'm just sounding like a robot.
Yeah. You do. You turn into this repeating the same thing over and over.
It's nice when I remember the first year we did the Oklahoma Craft Beer Festival. It was Friday and then Saturday, 2 days, and by Saturday night I was like, I am so sick of being here. But then last year it was nice because we just set up in the morning and we were, I only had to work. We learned, you don't work 2 sessions, you just work 1 session. It was nice working one of those. So, there's another neat one that's over in Norman that they do for it's like the Oklahoma Aerospace Museum. And I don't think only 5 breweries were there. No, I take that back. Like, like 10. But those small, intimate ones are really fun because you get to drink more beer and talk to other brewers more. Sometimes you go to the big busy ones and you're like, I'm just working. Which is cool. That's cool. But hanging out with other brewers and talking and drinking beer is more fun.
Or getting a chance to actually talk to the people that are getting the beers too.
Absolutely.
Like being able to interact with them instead of be like, okay, next.
Yeah.
Because that's why they're there, They're there to experience you and your beers and talk about them. And
Right.
so it gets too big and too crowded. It takes a lot of
I know.
away from you.
I think it's nice for a lot of those people too, because sometimes when you have 400 or 500 beers to drink, literally, you're obviously not going to. So you have to pick and choose exactly what you want to taste. Now that's also nice too, though. If that's your hobby is drinking craft beer, you've probably had most of the beer selections out there, so you can just be like, I've had these, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pinpoint what I haven't had. So that's what's really neat about the big ones is you actually get to try something new. But
and a lot of breweries bring their A game too, so they'll have some like one-off really cool special beers. It's always fun to try.
Yeah, that's one thing about the Oklahoma craft beers that you definitely want to. Also, like Zubru is kind of that way too. Like,
yeah, Zubru is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a fun one. But whenever you go, you're like, man, you can't just show up next to like Stone Cloud and be like, well, we brought a red ale.
I mean, you could.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever make it to anything in our neck of the woods up in Tulsa?
Not
I don't
that
feel like I've seen you there, but I could be wrong.
we have
I don't know that we've done that. And I don't think we've
never been to a hop
invited.
jam. Okay. And I know we would like to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we have. And I'd be open to it, but, it's all the way up there.
Yeah. Who would drive that far for beer?
Yeah. Well, we actually sell to one bar, Kiss My Ale.
Yep.
And so I love distributing to them because it's like, it's so silly because I drive, 2 hours. I drop off a keg and then I drive 2 hours home. But I love it because it's like we got this one sweet little spot in Tulsa, which is like if you haven't been to Nothing's Left, it's a really unique and fun experience. It's just like this little hole in the wall, but it's so fun to be in, and they have a great selection of craft beer, and they're super friendly.
Oh, Kiss My L?
Yeah. They're probably the friendliest bar I've
No, they're great. Yeah, they're really cool.
and you just can't help but have a good time in there. There's like nothing pretentious about it at all. But you're going to have great beer.
Yeah.
Great beer. They like pride themselves on their awesome beer selection. It's not that they have 100 taps. They only have like 6 or 8. But they know how to build a selection. I think that's...
They got lots of cans and
Yeah.
stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's where they get most of the variety.
Yeah. Anyway, I got off topic there. So
It's all good.
We go up to Tulsa sometime. I mean, there's no reason why. We know people up there. We have close friends and stuff like that. And other events, we'd be into going to.
So if you know people, tell them to invite us.
Okay.
We'll come up there.
Well, speaking of the distribution, what are y'all's thoughts on that? Is there other places that people could find your beer outside of the tap room and Kiss My L?
Yeah, we're very, very limited in our production as far as like distro. But distro is a weird thing because obviously you're starting to see a bunch of big breweries cancel distribution altogether and go back to just tap room. But for us, we just kind of throw it out there to people that want it. We don't, we'll go to like a bar or a restaurant or a liquor store, and if they want it, great. And if they don't, okay, cool, I understand. But we're at the Cellar in Norman, the Spirit Shop, Joe's, Captain Jack's, Corkscrew. Gosh, I'm going to forget somebody.
I think that's most of them in Norman.
In Midwest City, we're Midwest Wine and Spirits, and those accounts are so great, and they just continually order, and they're really easy to deal with. It's great because we self-distribute, so they literally just text me like, "Hey, I need a beer." I'm like, "Okay, I'll bring it over in about an hour," and it's as simple as that. And then we kind of go in and out at a lot of bars around here, but
We have a few staples.
Yeah, Blue Bonnet's a staple for us.
Rotator always.
Blue and the Meeting Place,
Victoria's.
and then what's on
Blackbird.
Blackbird? Thank you. Those are all very steady for us, and so that's kind of what we do. We usually don't say no to anybody. Like Kiss My L happened to come down here for something. They were visiting, and they came in here, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to bring some beer to Tulsa?" I was like, "Sure." So we don't really think about it. We don't plan it out like,
We're not
"Hey, we want
aggressively
to tackle this
seeking out
market, and this is where we want to be." It's just like, "Hey, if you want to sell our beer, we'll bring you some." So
It's awesome.
I think they like it too. Like you said, the manager at Blue or whatever is getting low on a keg. She'll just text us and be like, "Hey, what's cool and new?" And I give her a couple ideas. She's like, "Yeah, I want one of these." And
I'm seeing that from a lot of like liquor store owners as well. I had a comment from one the other day. It was like, "We just love ordering from you in 405 because I can just text you or Jonathan and you guys are just bring your beer over." I'm like,
it's no middleman.
yeah. Yes. A lot of places, and there's nothing wrong with this, but most places you have to order and they do deliveries like Tuesday, Thursday. So that's how it is, which is great. I'm kind of jealous that I don't have like a truck to come pick it up and take it for me. We're also not sure if the distribution market is really our game. We always wanted to be heavy taproom focus and just ambiance here and come have a good time with us. That's where we want to keep our focus anyway. So the distribution is for fun and for people that want to sell it and for people that want to buy it, but it's also not something that we're going to, stress out about,
So you guys do a lot of events and things like that out of the tap room. I know I've seen 5K, bike nights, that kind of thing on the social media pages. What are your regular events and, what's kind of some of the special stuff you have coming up?
So yeah, we do a year-round 5K on Wednesday nights, and we actually like to think of ourselves as a fitness company as much as a brewery, you know. So every Wednesday night at 6:30, you can come run a 5K, and sponsored by OK Runner, and they provide everyone with their first beer, and that's, like I said, year-round. And then on Thursday nights during, in between the daylight savings times, we'll do a bike ride, and we do 2 rides. One's like a 10-mile, one's like around 18,
16 to 18,
yeah. And that's sponsored by Buchanan Bicycles and Fusion Fitness, and your first beer after the ride is on them as well. And so those are our year-round activities. And then, like, St. Patrick's Day is a big focus for us because I used to work in an Irish pub, and I just quickly I fell in love with St. Patrick's Day celebrations, and so we really try to put a lot of focus into that one. Have fun. We do live music. This year we have a barrel-aged beer coming out just for St. Patrick's Day. It'll be around until it lasts. So that's like the kind of the first one. Oh yeah, and then we have art. You know, obviously Norton has an art walk second Friday of every month, and so that's if you just want to experience like a downtown setting where you can walk around with beer or wine. That's always a big night. So what else am I forgetting?
I was personally, I mean, we have an anniversary party every year.
Yeah.
You know, we have little things like we have a record player. People can come in and play records Mondays and Tuesdays.
Or pretty much any night if we're not busy.
True.
You know, if it's like if we have time to throw a record on, you know, go for it.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah. We're trying to work on some more day-to-day stuff, but you know, I think more our focus this year is going to be, like I said, on new releases and just keeping some of the selections really fun.
I've noticed around in the tap room, you've got quite a bit of art hanging up. Mm-hmm. Little maybe price tags on them. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Art Walk is it's supposed to be it's literally Art Walk. So we have a monthly artist that we feature. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound like you were gonna.
No. Yeah, we rotate. We try to rotate artists out every different artists every month for the art walk.
Okay.
And we let them keep their artwork going here throughout the month, and it's cool for us because, you know, it adds fresh, cool ambiance and gives them a chance to keep their stuff displaying.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We like things local here in Norman.
You got anything else?
I don't know.
I think that's it for our canned questions. You guys have anything else you want to throw out there or mention? Anything?
I'm kind of thinking slow today, so.
No, I mean, I don't know. We maybe didn't talk about all the beers, but I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah. Come into the tap room, try some beer. Obviously, we have flights. We can talk you through it. You know.
Yeah. And where can people find you guys online and physically?
So www.lazycirclesbrewing.com. Facebook is probably the best way to keep up with current events, and Instagram. As far, you know, we don't use our website to promote this and that coming up necessarily. It's more like, hey, this is who we are. But Facebook, if you want to follow us there, and we'll do a lot of just like posts there to tell you what's going on in here. We're on Twitter, but I don't really know how to use it, so
Everyone that's common, including us.
yeah. So we're there, but you might not get a whole lot of information there. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
And we're local. Our tap room is here in downtown Norman on East Main Street, 422 East Main Street.
Nearest intersection, Main and Porter.
Yeah.
So,
It's also
Name of the beer.
yeah.
name of our beer.
We were driving in, and I was like, "That's the name of the beer."
That was literally the easiest beer to make. The name.
Yeah.
We didn't have a name for it until we.
We
found
need
out
to make a porter.
We
No,
got well.
that's not true.
We've
We had
been
a porter.
brewing a porter, but and then
Yeah,
we
we had
never
a
had a name for it. And then we opened. We got the lease here. I was like, well, I guess we got a name.
Now we know what to call it.
Right on. Well, thank you guys again
Thank
for
you.
having us
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
That guy said, "Don't let the door hit in the vagina on the way out." That was hilarious.
Good idea.
That's going to do it for this week. Thanks again to Stephen and Steven of Lazy Circles for having us out today. Make sure to follow them on social media. Check out their taproom in Norman, at Main and Porter. Easy to remember, right? And make sure to follow us on social media at Pub Talk Podcast. And come back next week. And as always, never forget there's nothing in life too big or hard. You can't handle it over a few beers with your good friends. Until next time, chill to the next episode.